Hey Jenny, ready for another deep dive into the world of AI?
Mark, I'm always ready, especially when it involves something as intriguing as agentic coding. What have you got for us today?
Oh, this is good. We're talking about Claude Code, Anthropic's new creation. It's not just another AI coding assistant. It's being called an agentic coding tool, and that's a whole different ballgame.
Okay, agentic. That's a new one for me. Sounds a bit like it belongs in a sci-fi movie, with intelligent agents running around. What does it actually mean in this context?
Right? It's like, bah. Imagine a coding partner that doesn't just follow instructions, but actively participates in the development process. It can explore your codebase, suggest fixes, generate documentation. It's kind of like having a superpowered coding buddy.
So it's more proactive than, say, just auto-completing code snippets? It's actually times thinking, time about the code?
Exactly. And that's thanks to the Claude 3.7 Sonnet model under the hood. This thing has an extended thinking mode for tackling complex problems. It's not just spitting out quick answers. It can delve deep into your code and really understand what's going on.
Wow, that sounds intense. So how does a developer actually use times this? Do you need some fancy, specialized IDE?
That's the beauty of it. It works right from your terminal. No need for specific plugins or IDE integrations. You can use it with any development environment, on any server. It's incredibly flexible.
Okay, that's clever. So it avoids that whole vendor lock-in problem that you sometimes get with specialized tools, but terminal-based. Does that mean it's, super complicated to use?
Not at all. You interact with it using simple commands. You can tell it to do things like, find and fix bugs in this file, or explain this code to me, or even implement this new feature across these multiple files. It's surprisingly intuitive.
So you're basically giving it high-level instructions and it figures out the details? That's a significant shift from the traditional way of coding, where you have to figure out every single step.
Precisely. And according to Anthropic, it's already showing impressive results. They're reporting a 78% task completion accuracy in their early testing. Tasks that used to take developers 45 minutes or longer are now being done in a single pass.
78%? That's a pretty big claim. I mean, that kind of efficiency boost could be a major selling point for companies, especially those dealing with, say, massive legacy codebases.
Absolutely. Imagine being a new developer, joining a team, and trying to understand a huge, complex system. Claude Code can help with that. It can explain the code, generate documentation. It can significantly speed up the onboarding process.
Okay, I'm starting to see the potential here. But, and I always have a but, what are the downsides? There's always a catch, right?
Well, for one, it's not cheap. The cost of using Claude Code can be quite high, especially for heavy usage. That could be a barrier for smaller organizations or individual developers.
The price tag. That's always a factor. And I'm guessing there's also the elephant in the room. The potential impact on developer jobs?
Yeah, that's a legitimate concern. There's a lot of debate about how AI coding tools will affect the job market. Will they replace developers, or will they simply augment their capabilities, freeing them up to focus on more creative and complex tasks?
It's a tricky one. I mean, on the one hand, increased efficiency is great. But on the other hand, we need to be mindful of the potential for job displacement, especially for junior developers who might be doing some of the more routine coding tasks.
And there's also the question of over-reliance. If developers start to depend too much on AI to write their code, will their own coding skills atrophy over time?
That's a valid point. It's like using a calculator all the time. You might forget how to do basic arithmetic. We need to find a balance, I think, between leveraging the power of AI and maintaining our own core skills.
And then, of course, this all runs from the command line, which means it has direct API integration. We have to consider the ethical and security implications, especially when working with proprietary code.
So where does Claude Code fit in with all the other asterisk AI tools out there? Are we talking about a direct competitor to, say, GitHub Copilot, or is it something different?
It's more of a different approach. Copilot is great for code completion and suggestions times within times your IDE. Claude Code, with its agentic nature, takes it a step further. It's more like a collaborator that can actively work on your code base.
So it's not just assisting, it's asterisk acting, That's the key difference. I can see how that would appeal to developers working on complex projects or those who are trying to modernize legacy systems.
Exactly. And Anthropic is already talking about future enhancements, like improving its conversational capabilities and expanding the range of supported development environments. They even have plans for full IDE integration down the line.
So they're not stopping here. They see this as a long-term project, a fundamental shift in how we approach software development.
Precisely. They envision Claude Code becoming a constant coding companion, regardless of your tooling choices. It's a pretty ambitious vision.
It is. And it'll be fascinating to see how it evolves and how the developer community responds to it. I mean, are we going to see widespread adoption, or will it remain a niche tool for specific use cases?
That's the big question. Right now, it's still in preview mode, so usage is limited. But the initial feedback, at least from Anthropic's internal teams, is very enthusiastic. They're excited about the potential for AI-driven bug discovery, codebase-wide refactoring, and improved developer onboarding.
It sounds like we're at the very beginning of a potentially major change in the software development landscape. It's exciting, but also a little unsettling in a way.
Yeah, it's one of those things that forces us to rethink the relationship between humans and AI in a very practical way. It's not just about automating tasks. It's about collaborating with a non-human intelligence to create something new.
And that brings up all sorts of interesting philosophical questions, doesn't it? About the nature of creativity, the role of human expertise, and the future of work itself.
Definitely. We're going to have to grapple with these questions as AI tools become more and more sophisticated. It's not just about the technology. It's about how we adapt to it, how we use it responsibly, and how we ensure that it benefits everyone.
Well, Mark, as always, you've given us a lot to think about. Claude Code sounds like a fascinating development, and I'm sure we'll be revisiting this topic as it evolves. Thanks for breaking it down for us.
My pleasure, Jenny. It's always a blast exploring these technological frontiers with you. And to our listeners, keep coding, keep exploring, and keep questioning the future.